So hello, you're joining us at the Lifesavers Recognition Day presentation awards evening at the Shipwreck and Lifesaving Museum. And joining me right now is I have Nate Wooderson, who was an ER tech at the Nantucket Cottage Hospital this summer, and bosun's mate John McNally for the United States Coast Guard. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So these gentlemen were instrumental in the rescue and the operations that happened with the Steamship Authority when the INO went on the jetties over in Hyannis. And so I'm just going to ask a couple of questions to you both. If you would just recall the evening and tell me what prompted you to sort of get into action and some of the things that you remember about the night. John, would you like to start?
Yeah, no problem. So it all started, we were out doing training, just like any other day, and we heard the call come over the radio. So we called into our sector to figure out what was going on, and they did, in fact, tell us that a ferry had struck the jetties. And then that's when they diverted us from normal training to go assist with the case, and so we headed that way.
And was there any sort of leadership at that place at the time, or were you required to sort of step in and negotiate the operations as soon as you arrived?
Nope, at that point, I'm just the coxswain of the vessel, so I'm in charge of our vessel alone. But once we were on scene, that's when our vessel was designated the on-scene coordinator, and so that's now my job to coordinate all the vessels to start acting out and carrying out the mission, helping everybody get off safely.
How was the communication that night? I understand that there were multiple first responders and districts involved. How did that work for you?
Yeah, we ended up having 10 counties between Barnstable, Hyannis Fire Departments, and police departments, 3 Coast Guard assets from Chatham, Woods Hole, and then us from Brant Point, and then we had a Coast Guard helicopter. So between all that, we had a lot of communication going on. Passing it up and down, people up above me, then down to the fire department that was on the jetties. So between all that communication going back and forth, we were able to get everybody off safely. So,
how did your training prepare you for the event?
I mean, we do some pretty extensive training, but there's nothing like going out there and then being in charge of 13, 14 assets, and then helping 50 people. Usually we're used to just going out and helping fishing vessels or something like that. But we do train and we do prepare for circumstances like that. So it was neat to actually apply that training to the situation.
Wonderful. Well, we commend you on the actions of that evening. We thank you. So Nate Wooderson. Nate, give us a little bit of history. What were you doing at the Nantucket Cottage Hospital this summer, and what were you doing on the steamship that night?
I was working as an ER tech at the Nantucket Cottage Hospital. I was 4 weeks on the job, just 2 weeks out of orientation. And I was actually going home to see my dad for Father's Day that weekend, so he had quite a long night that night. But no, that night, so I took the 8:45 ferry. We ended up hitting the jetty right around 9:30, and honestly, probably the most amazing thing was just seeing like your average everyday people just like really stepping up, because I wouldn't say like I jumped in immediately or anything like that. It was just like there was these 2 bankers. They were helping this gentleman who had smacked his head. He was unconscious, and that really prompted me to just identify myself. Well, I really couldn't hide actually because I was still in my ER uniform. But that prompted me to just at least help out, lend a hand. I mean, I didn't have a terrible amount of experience, but I had more experience than they had. And there was also an ER doctor on board that night, so she was vital in triaging the various cases that we had on board, and was very thankful for everybody, especially the rescue crews. Thank you very much.
How much would you say the shock value of the actual impact played a part of people maybe getting paralyzed in what to do or how to assess the situation? Did that play a part at all?
I would say it definitely played a part. Like I said, it was 9:30 at night. You could not see anything. We didn't know what we hit. We hit the sand, and then all of a sudden there was just a big bang. And I mean, the crew was good about getting us all set up with life jackets because they were in the process of assessing what exactly we hit, the extent of the damage, and so they got us all squared away with life jackets. So, and they did end up telling us we were on the breakwater, but we weren't taking on water, so that was nice and reassuring.
I understand that you were also injured on the impact. How did that play a part with your trying to help others?
Honestly, I didn't notice any of the injuries until the next morning. I think there's just so much adrenaline going on. I mean, I think everybody after that impact, I don't know how fast exactly we were going, but we were going at a good pace, and the whiplash, and I hit my shoulder, but everything turned out negative in x-rays, so just happy to be okay. And I hope everybody else who was on that boat is okay too.
And again, same question I asked John, how about the training that you received? Did that play a big part of your operations that evening?
I'd say definitely the emergency preparedness training that I've had at the hospital, just how to deal with situations like that. Like John was talking about, the chain of command. Definitely when the Coast Guard got on the boat, I felt like the chain of command was definitely more established. And we definitely there's a plan for getting individuals off the boat, and it was rather smooth sailing from there. So.
Terrific. Well, thank you both to you for your heroic actions, willing to serve others, and I'll enjoy watching the presentations later on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. We are here at the Shipwreck and Lifesaving Museum annual Lifesavers Recognition Day Award. And I'm joined this evening with a group of our Nantucket lifeguards. We are celebrating them this evening for really their efforts throughout the whole season, but we are highlighting one particular day, August 16th, where this team of young men and women, along with their other teammates, had 27 rescues in one day. It was a phenomenal day. I think it was a day that they would agree that they have trained for their whole life, hoping that that day would never come. Join with me is Sheila Lucy, our harbor master, and Sheila Lucy is in charge, along with Chief Pittman, for the training and oversight of these young men and women. And so first of all, I'm going to have a few words with Sheila, and then we're going to talk to a few of our guards. Sheila, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So run through a little bit about what it takes to be a lifeguard here during the summer. It seems like it's a glamorous job. They look good when they're on the stands. They get a nice tan. Is that really a true picture of the lifeguards, Sheila?
First off, they look good all the time. Just take a look at them. They're a good-looking group. But they're probably the hardest-working group of people on Nantucket. They start first thing in the morning with a workout and some training, and then they move right out to the stands. They have to be on the ball at all times. They can't come in. They have to be at 100% every day, and they give us 100% every day, and we're blessed to have them.
Great. Talk about a little bit about the training that they have to go through before the season begins.
Well, Brianna Viterini is our lifeguard coordinator. She coordinates the program. She works with the supervisors. Our supervisors this year were Dylan Bomeisler, Claire Moisen, and Pat Finlay. And they come up with a training program which we get in. We do mock rescues, we do scenarios, we do all kinds of different situations. They go through a 40-hour course for first aid, CPR, first responder training, and then they move right into just different scenarios that they could run into. Like we said, they train for this every single day, but it was a day that they trained for, but we prayed that never happened. It did. They performed flawlessly and phenomenally, and all of their actions were amazing that day. I couldn't be prouder of them.
Thank you. Dylan, you're a supervisor for the team.
That's me.
Step forward for a moment, sir.
Let's talk.
So tell me a little bit about what your role is on the day-to-day operations with your team.
I'm the guy in the truck, so I make sure they're all okay. It's not a glamorous job, but these guys make it worth it, teamwork. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm an operational supervisor, so we move around, just make sure the beaches have the medical equipment for the day that they needed, or if they're short staffed, we might move somebody around in the mornings and lead the workouts every morning.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the challenges, particularly on the 16th, that you remember, starting from the beginning of the morning?
So obviously Hurricane Gert came full force. The surf was massive that morning. Everybody was at their beaches, and it started off immediately probably the worst way it possibly could. All the guards on Nobody that day did absolutely amazing, especially Catherine Pittman, and it worked out flawlessly, and good group of people.
the 16th started out in the morning. We all had a big conversation about whether it was, if it was beyond their capabilities. We let them know that that was okay to just let us know. And every single one of them raised their hands, stepped up to the plate, and made it happen. And then we also reorganized. We closed the beach on the North Shore so that we could have more people on the South Shore, but we did keep a North Shore beach open so that there was a North Shore option for us to send people to. So it started with that type of coordination, and then the supervisors and Brianna, and they all figured out who was going where and who would be the best put in what situation. But it started out in Cisco. We were in the water. They opened up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by 10:24 they had already pulled several people out of the water at Cisco. So,
Who else would you like to introduce?
this is Claire Moisen. She was our ATV supervisor and a supervisor at the end of the season, and she's been a great lifeguard with us, and she's been recognized by the Lifesaving Museum before for some life-saving.
I was going to say, I recognized her, and I think your mother's here, right? Yes, I recognize it. Well, welcome, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about your operations that day. If you're overseeing the ATVs, how did that play in? Because from what I understand, there was a lot of moving people back and forth throughout the island.
So our ATVs are a really helpful resource for us, especially when we have to be at one end of the island to the other. We get different calls throughout the day from Cisco all the way out towards Matacasham. So it really, Tom Nevers, it really helps us get where we need to be and fast. And we have trailers with Stokes baskets with backboards in them. So that really helps us to transport people and just really gives us the opportunity to do our job the best that we can.
Let me ask a question. From what I understand, that day there were double red flags along the beaches. Can you tell me what a double flag or double red flag would tell me as a person sitting on the beach?
So a double red flag is the beach is closed for swimmers. The head guards on the beach each morning will designate a flag color, and that will indicate whether or not what the hazard levels are for that day. So double red is kind of worst possible scenario, and we do our best to keep everybody out of the water. And sometimes there's a few people that are a little over what's the word? They think they can handle it, and then ends up going south. So. The lifeguards are all very good swimmers, and if we are feeling that it's hazardous enough to put a double red up, it's usually pretty dangerous.
Yeah. How about, is that different for surfers or people who are out there with boards? Is there a little bit more, I'm going to say leniency, but is there a little bit more flexibility for them?
I would say so. Usually on those days that we do fly double red, the surf is so good that you can't keep them out of the water even if you wanted to, because that's just the way surfers are. And luckily Nantucket's such a close-knit community that most surfers know us, and we can kind of tell them to go a little bit left, a little bit right, and as long as they're confident in their swimming abilities. But for the most part, double red is definitely an urge to not go in the water.
Would you like to talk a little bit about the teamwork? I mean, you present as a team. I know you talk about each other as a team. That starts from the top. But would you like to talk about that a little bit, Sheila?
Yeah, absolutely. That's our first rule. Our number one rule is that we are a team. We'll always operate as a team. We're very well supported by the Nantucket Police Department and the CSOs. The CSOs were a big help to us on the 16th as well. They have their ATVs. We work with them. We consider them part of our team as well. And we want them recognized as much as we are. But teamwork is the basis of our program, and we count on each other every single day.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to Chief Pittman for his leadership. And thank you to all of you for choosing this as a profession and keeping us all safe. And I think we're about ready to go forward for the presentations.
Wonderful, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. At this point of the evening, I would like to invite Bill Pittman, Chief of Police, to join me, Master Chief of the U.S. Coast Guard Station Brant Point, Chris Witek, Fire Chief Stephen Murphy, Harbor Master Sheila Lucy, Emergency Management and Marine Safety Coordinator Dave Fronzuto, and the CEO and President of Nantucket Cottage Hospital, Dr. Margot Hartman. Good evening. My name is Pauline Proch. and I am the Executive Director for Egan Maritime Institute. In partnership with Nantucket Cottage Hospital, we welcome you here this evening. It is no mistake that we gather here tonight on September 11th. Today marks the 16th anniversary of one of the most tragic days in our history. As we remember what happened in the early hours of September 11th, 2001, a day that changed our lives forever, we'll always be reminded of the bravery and fortitude of our first responders. Over 3,000 lives were lost that day. Our first responders, along with ordinary civilians, put themselves in danger in order to save people they never knew. Themes that you will hear and that will continue for this evening's presentation. Please join me in a moment of silence as we remember those who lost their lives. We in turn honor our heroes who continually put others before themselves. Thank you. Standing here with me tonight are the leaders of our first responders. These are the folks who are responsible for training and preparing their staff for a day that they hope will never happen. It is their job to make sure that their team is ready and prepared for the worst. And to our guests up front with me, they represent the men and women who choose a profession that demands that they give selflessly, that they give fully of themselves each and every day to provide safety to others. Their teams get called into work on their days off, or often they show up voluntarily in order to provide maximum support in times of trouble. As we learned, this very thing happened on August 16th with our lifeguards. Tonight, you will hear stories of bravery, of first responders and civilians. These men and women, may I say some who are high school students, started out their day not knowing what the day would bring. They did not begin the day looking for attention, admiration, or praise. They were simply going to work or going home. They acted selflessly for the better and safety of others. And I thank you on behalf of Egan Maritime Institute. You are our heroes, and we are forever grateful for the choices and actions that you made that day. Thank you. I will ask you to return to your seats, please. And at this point, I would have great pleasure in introducing to you our partner for this event, Dr. Margot Hartman.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Margot Hartman, President and CEO of Nantucket Cottage Hospital. And I have to say, every year, I thank Pauline and the Egan Maritime Institute. There is no other place I would feel more appropriate to be on 9/11 than at this event. We are once again so pleased to partner with the Institute and present this special event that recognizes individuals in our community for their extraordinary efforts to save lives, whose training and sense of responsibility prepared them to take action under difficult circumstances. It has also become a tradition to recognize these individuals on September 11th, a day when our country remembers and honors those who we lost 16 years ago, as well as the first responders who bravely risked their lives to save others on that day and who have continued to struggle from the events and the impact of that day. So this evening, I hope you'll join me in celebrating our honorees who demonstrated courage and selflessness under duress. The stories that you're going to hear tonight cover 3 extraordinary situations in the waters around Nantucket. The individuals who responded during these harrowing events represent private citizens, as well as our Coast Guard, our town lifeguards, and I'm proud to say Nantucket Cottage Hospital as well. We should all take pride and some comfort in knowing that these men and women are among us. And now I'd like to introduce Jessica Guff, a trustee of the Egan Maritime Institute and the chair of the Nantucket Shipwreck and Life-Saving Museum Advisory Committee, who will announce our honoree presentations.
Thank you. I have to put the glasses on, so forgive me. We're blessed with many resourceful people to honor this evening, so I'm going to try to keep this succinct and to the point and relatively brief. 3 themes came to mind as I prepared to write this. Teamwork and communication occurred to me first, and our wonderful police chief, Bill Pittman, provided the third, upon which the other 2 are truly based: preparedness. All 3 form the basis of successful life-saving, which is something that both Egan Maritime, the Nantucket Cottage Hospital, and our beloved Shipwreck and Life-Saving Museum wish to promulgate and honor every day, but especially on this day. Preparedness often comes from constant, unrelenting drilling, practicing for the worst while hoping for the best. It was on a routine Coast Guard drill, a normal training operation out in the Nantucket Sound in the dark of night, that Bosun Mate 3 John McNally first heard about the unfortunate intersection of the Steamship Authority's fast ferry Iano with the jetty in Hyannis. As the coxswain of a 47-foot motor lifeboat, John was chosen by the Coast Guard's southeastern New England sector to lead the on-scene rescue efforts, which were comprised of 3 Coast Guard vessels, 10 town and local fire and police boats, and 1 Coast Guard helicopter. John, who hails from Warwick, Rhode Island, entered the Coast Guard in 2013 and was assigned to U.S. Coast Guard Station Brant Point, Nantucket in 2014. He was 22 years old on June 16th of this year when the Iano crash occurred, and with clear thinking and excellent training, he was able to bring order out of chaos and direct the entire disparate rescue team to safely evacuate all passengers from the ferry in rough seas on a cold night. The 6-hour-long rescue operation was successful because of John's excellent communication skills. As a team leader, John gathered information from fire and police department personnel on the scene, as well as the coasties from his own boat and Chatham and Woods Hole. Passengers could not be evacuated from the bow of the ferry because it was on the jetty, creating over a 20-foot drop to the waiting boats in the water below. Likewise, the stern of the Iano was not suitable for evacuation because it was outside of the jetty and the sea state was too choppy and too high. John says the fire department came up with the idea of evacuating passengers from the side of the ferry by asking them to climb down one of their ladders and be picked up by their boat and brought out to safe water to be transferred to the other boats. After rescue personnel talked to all 43 passengers remaining on board, and this is after the injured passengers were evacuated by helicopter, 33 passengers climbed down the ladder and were delivered to safety. The remaining 10 passengers didn't feel safe on the ladder and were later removed by the Coast Guard helicopter. While John and his team were developing their plan, on board the Iano, injured and frightened passengers were getting their bearings after the initial shock of the crash. As Norton, Massachusetts native Nate Woodison described it, everything seemed routine as the Iano neared Hyannis, where Nate was heading home for Father's Day weekend. Nate, currently a senior at Boston College majoring in biology, was being trained on the job as an emergency room technician at the Nantucket Cottage Hospital. He had gotten off work 2 hours before departing on the ferry and was still wearing his ER shirt. He described hearing a, quote, loud bang. The boat rose up, then flattened out. It stopped immediately, and suddenly everything and everyone went flying. Fortunately, Nate was seated. He was one of the lucky ones. He hit his shoulder and was in pain, though an x-ray would later show no serious injury. Regardless of his discomfort, Nate put his ER training to good use. As he described it, there were 3 head injuries on board and various other traumatic injuries. There was also an ER doctor from off island who helped too, and I was able to triage with her. Though not a doctor yet, Nate used his ER training and communication skills to help his fellow passengers and credits the Cottage Hospital with preparing him to do so in only 1 month's time. He also credits the Coast Guard and his fellow honoree, John McNally, and his team, saying they were, quote, great getting the injured and all of us off that boat. They were very organized. Both John McNally and Nate Woodison were in the right place at the right time, and both were prepared through their training and communication skills to cooperate with and help others. And that is why we honor them both here today. And now, I'd like to introduce our State Representative Dylan Fernandez and ask all 3 gentlemen to join me at the podium to receive a wonderful citation.
So I'm Dylan Fernandez. I'm your state representative, represent Nantucket, the Vineyard, and Falmouth. And it's terrific to hear about a collaboration between Nantucket Coast Guard and Woods Hole Coast Guard, because I'm from Woods Hole. Love to hear the two groups working together. And so we made a citation for both of you to honor your efforts and your bravery and vigilance at sea. And this is from myself, from Speaker DeLeo, and from our Senator Julian Cyr, who couldn't make it here tonight, but wanted to send his thanks and congratulations to you as well. So on behalf of the State House, we recognize John McNally, your heroism and vigilance in the course of a sea rescue. Congratulations. John, thank you. And Nate, we also recognize your heroism and vigilance in the course of a sea rescue, and thank you for all you do to keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
But wait, there's more. A lack of common sense often causes unsafe situations that require rescue. Such was the case when a visitor to the island, wearing a life vest, decided to take his 2 girls kayaking without life vests on. On a windy day in July, when the sea was unusually choppy, the water was so inhospitable that Brian Borgeson, captain of the fishing charter Absolute, was seriously considering not taking passengers out that day. When the passengers turned out to be a father with a group of 20-somethings and not little kids in tow, Brian and his first mate, Scott Riddle, decided to go for it. They set a course for Great Point and were heading out there when a call came in on the radio. The kayakers had drifted out to sea and were unable to get back to shore because of the current. The girls had only 1 paddle between them and were panicking. Someone on shore called Nantucket Harbor Master Sheila Lucy, who is no stranger to the network of local fishermen and charter captains. She immediately reached out to the Coast Guard, but also tapped into this network of seasoned professionals. Sheila called Bobby DaCosta, the captain of the Albacore, since she knew he was in local waters. Through a constant stream of radio communication, Bobby knew that Brian and Absolute were closer to where the kayakers were stranded. He gave Brian and Scott a heads up on the situation, and Scott was able to spot the kayakers about a mile off of Squam Beach at the haulover. The Absolute picked up all 3 kayakers, and Brian and Scott gave them water and had the girls put on life preservers. The sea was rough, and the girls were close to seriously deep, icy waters where they would surely have perished without life preservers on had Brian Borgeson and Scott Riddle not responded to the call to use their boat as a rescue vessel and save lives that July day. And for this reason, we honor them here this evening. And once again, State Representative Dylan Fernandez will award citations.
Come on up.
Come on up. Thanks. Sorry, gentlemen.
Barely.
Well, it's, the State House couldn't be prouder to honor these two gentlemen here today. And a large reason why we all live here, why we all live on the Cape and Islands and especially Nantucket, is because of our love for the ocean. And we know, and especially the captain and the first mate know, that while the ocean is beautiful, she can be very unforgiving. And the bravery demonstrated by these two in rescuing people and saving their lives is just a great example of how the Nantucket community lifts each other up and is there to support everyone. So thank you for all of your hard work. And on behalf of the entire House of Representatives, Speaker DeLeo, Senator Sear, and myself, I want to thank you for your heroism, vigilance during your sea rescue. So thank you, Captain and First Mate.
Okay, I promise this is it. But it's just so inspiring to meet these people and just, I don't know how they do what they do, but one of the people that I'm about to talk about, not only knows how to tap into a safety network of valiant fishermen, she is also responsible for overseeing one of our greatest safety assets on Nantucket, the network of summer lifeguards who train ceaselessly for emergencies we all hope never come. And that is, of course, our harbor master, Sheila Lucy, who is an amazing woman and works her butt off, pardon my language. The sea was so rough on Wednesday, August 16th of this year that double red flags were waving in the wind at all area beaches, alerting people not to swim in the dangerous surf. The harbor master had also reached out to WACK and social media, exhorting the public not to risk their lives by going into the water. Even with these precautions, area beaches were packed, and many people chose to disregard the flags and enter the water. Earlier that morning, Sheila had assembled her team of 43 lifeguards, led by Brianna Viterini, who has been a Nantucket lifeguard for 10 years, ever since she was 16. Sheila told them, "This is the day that we train for every single day and pray it never happens." She went on to say that the lifeguards were all aware of the risks involved, and they all had the confidence to say, "We've got this, we can do it." Unfortunately, one life was sadly lost that fateful day, but 27 rescues were made in total, and lifeguards went in 20 times after the tragic drowning at Nobadir Beach. They went in as a team, and as Harbor Master Sheila Lucy has said with obvious pride, they stayed together for the rest of the day. They wanted to be together. They went from Tom Nevers to Ladies Beach to Fisherman's. It was so amazing what they did. Many of our brave lifeguards couldn't be here today because they're either back at school or work off island, but their families are here, some of them, and we want to honor all of them and ask all of them who are here to please come up to the podium. And we also want to thank Harbor Master Sheila Lucy and Brianna Viterini, who unfortunately could not be here. for their support and the excellent training, preparedness, and communication skills they have imparted to our Nantucket lifeguards, who really went above and beyond this year. And for that reason, we honor them here today. And Sheila, please join them at the podium.
Well, we only have one citation. But you know what? I think it would be great, actually, if we could get the names of everyone and get out individual citations, if we could do that, because I think it's really great. Because I think it's really important to honor all the people who risked their lives to save others on that fateful day. And so I just want to thank all of you for all of your tireless effort. You guys are in much better shape than I am. I can see that just by looking at you guys. And, you know, what really makes, you know, Nantucket's beautiful, and we can see that here this evening. But what really makes Nantucket a beautiful place to call home is its caring and generous people, and that is just exemplified with the people here behind me putting their lives on the line to save others. So thank you for all of your work. And on behalf of the House of Representatives, Senator Sear, and myself, we just want to honor you because of your heroism and vigilance demonstrated during Hurricane Ert. So congratulations, guys. It's terrific.
I just want to add that we also have 2 community service officers here who've joined us, and these guys, who are so brave and in great shape, couldn't have done what they did without the CSOs. Our wonderful community service officers ferried them from beach to beach on ATVs and really made all the rescues, all 27 rescues, possible. So let's give them a hand. Thank you all for being here, and that's it for this Lifesavers Recognition Day. Bye.
Good job, guys. Thank you. Thank you.